No, and that's what we call Atlantic slave trade. So when we hear the phrase Atlantic slave trade, we are talking about something between 16th and 19th century, and we are talking about a system when you take some goods from Europe, like guns, you take them to Africa, you exchange them for people, for slaves, you take them to America, you sell them there, you get sugar, take back to Europe. That's just a picture how it used to look like in Africa, inside. Yeah? By the way, the European traders, the slave traders, they were never ever entering the interior of Africa. They were always, they built the big, huge castles along the coast. Mombasa is one of them, for example, but they were based rather on the west coast. And they were engaging local people to look for slaves. So they were entering inside Africa and they were bringing the trade. Those are the ships that we used to transport slaves, yeah? And now you can see overall how does it look like. There's a little estimation in millions because we are not sure how many people were trafficked. I mean, how many people were sold because nobody truly knows on that. So we can only guess more or less. We believe that around 5 million were sold here. You see, from that, they were going to South America. Now 4.5 million they were taken to West Indies. That's the first place for Europeans to discover, and that's the first place for this big plantation of sugar, coffee, cotton. Now 0.5 million were sold here to North America. Only 0.3 million to Europe. You see, there are not so many people sold over there. We are talking about 400 years, so it's a long time. Now what is missing here on this map? What is very important you see? Now look, this slave trade, it affects only this part of Africa. You see, there's nothing about this time. Yeah, there were not slaves sold from here, simply because it was too far for them. Why those ships should travel up to here when they could get something here? Yeah? There was no point for them traveling that way. Yeah? And now we can see how it evolved in time. Between 1451 and 1600 was very little, you see. They were selling some few slaves, and most of them were going to Europe. You know, that's the beginning before they discovered this golden triangle. They were not sure how to deal with slaves. Now, when they discovered, they were look the massive movement, yeah, of people from between this and that time. Now, around 1810, it was the time for the first country, for United Kingdom, to ban slave trade. So that's why you see difference between this movement and that movement, you see. Here people are trafficked less, much less. Because already United Kingdom was the strongest country in the world in that time. They banned. And then finally the last time of transatlantic slave, in 1870 it ceased. Because a number of European countries they decided to cease the whole trafficking people, I mean the whole slave trade. So they sent warships to block slave trade. So after this time it ceased to exist. Yeah? That's a famous example. There's a picture drawn for British Parliament to explain how slaves were transported. You see, they were packed. There's a ship. There's the slave ship. So, of course, the more people you could, it was the same way that the Matatu sometimes behave. The more people you get into, the more money you get, yeah? And you don't worry if the people are squeezed or not. So that's what we mean. The problem is that Matatu you travel for 20 minutes, 1 hour. This was a couple of weeks, like that. So slaves, this was the slaves were put on the lower desk, they were put, and then they were put on the top like that. A number of them were supposed to die on the way because they were the conditions. So after the local traders were bringing slaves to the coast, often the one way of selection was that they put a ship like 200 meters from the shore, and they were taking the slaves, reach the ship, and they were shooting them. Those who did not manage to reach the ship means they were strong enough to swim 200 meters. Those who were not able to reach the ship, they were weak and they were supposed to drown. It was one way of selecting people, how we're going to select the strong slaves. Then after that, we are putting them, as you see, one by one, yeah? And then often the ship was still waiting for a couple of weeks to get the full cargo, yeah? And then only after that they were going to be sent to America. I don't know how long it used to take, but a couple of weeks, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Yeah, to be stuck like that. Yeah, if everything goes well, yeah.
It used to take months because the minimum.
And then after that, you were also, once you reach the place, you were also waiting for some time to rearrange things, to be put on the slave market, to be sold in auction. Yeah. There was a kind of, when we will talk about it, there was a way of approaching the abolition of slave trade, because there was also a practice once you got sick on a ship, you were thrown away to die on the high sea, because the people were afraid that once you get sick you can spread the disease. Yeah, so it was cheaper for them. It's all about money. It's cheaper to lose you than you affect more people and they have to kill them. Yeah, then have to spend money on dawa, on medicine, better to throw it away. And that's how these people, they were saying that they were telling that, we will throw away people when they're sick because it is an act of mercy. Because if he's sick, he's going to suffer, so when we kill him, immediately he's not going to suffer. So the William Wilberforce, who was the head of anti-slavery campaign, he said, I never heard about somebody who threw away his own captain. When your own captain on the ship gets sick, you don't throw him away, so why you ask him to suffer? You see, there was a kind of hypocrisy. They were saying that, we throw these people away because they're sick, so we don't want them to suffer, let them go. Yeah? But anyway, let's continue, because there are books upon books about the slave trade, yeah? The Atlantic slave trade. What are the consequences of the slave trade? And I'm still talking about the transatlantic slave trade. Yeah? First of all, economical consequences. The fact that the United States is a powerful country is only because of the slave trade. Because for a number of years they received a free power, manpower. The fact that Africa is somehow beat backward is also because of slave trade. Because for a number of years, the best people in the society, the human capital, were taken away. So it's somehow it's Africa that managed to make the United States strong. It's connected to economical, the transportation of slave trade destroyed a number of kingdoms in Africa. That's why in Africa there was never a chance for African societies to develop structures like we used to have them in Europe. Those kingdoms that exist, they used to exist like Bongoma Kingdom, or the own African kingdoms that were somehow destroyed because of the slave trade. Yeah? And that's why there were new structures put like Kenya, Uganda, or Tanzania, something that never existed before. Geopolitical, number of people, they say that it's only because of the slave trade that the United States is a powerful country now. If not the slave trade, the United States would never be a powerful country. Remember that in 18th century, well, in the end of, in 18th century, the end of 18th century, the United States was a colony. It was a colony. It was colonized like some African countries even 30 years ago, like Zimbabwe. And within 200 years, the United States became the most powerful country in the world that can invade any country at any time they want. 200 is a very short time. And they said it happened only because of the slave trade. Because for so many years they see that a great human capital, the power, manpower. Now, cultural. There are a number of cultural consequences of the slave trade. There is explanation, like in some African cultures, the role of agriculture is assigned to women. Why women? They work in some cultures, the women are supposed to work in agriculture, not men. I don't know, do you know any cultures like that?
No.
In Malawi, there's one couple of tribes that men, they're supposed to somehow, in the past they were warriors or they were, but women, they go to the field, they cultivate.
Yeah, most African cultures are like that. And
there's a theory that says it's only because during the slave trade, men were captured and were taken away. So there are not enough men in the culture at the beginning. Now they realized, after some time, that when you bring a group of men, you bring frustration. There were some kind of clashes and there was a bit of frustration. And also they discovered that if we bring women, we can produce our own slaves. By reproduction, they can marry each other, we allow them to marry. And they will have children, and these children will be our slaves, will possess them. So instead of keeping buying men from Africa, we can produce our own. But still, up to that point, men were preferred. There was preference for men. We are still going to talk about the other slave trade, the Indian Ocean slave trade. And then, for Indian Ocean, there was a strong preference for men.